My name is Cambria Hayes, 33 years old. From the outside, my life looked like a mood board pulled straight from a glossy magazine. I ran my own interior design company. My blog about decor was finally picking up steam, and I'd just bought my first house in the suburbs. Calm colors, clean lines, a front yard with enough space for lavender and hydrangeas. People online told me I was living the dream. They didn't know that every time my phone lit up with Mom or Ashley, my stomach clenched like I'd done something wrong. Let me tell you about my family. There was my mother, Karen, my father, Michael, and my younger sister, Ashley. Ashley is 3 years younger than me, 30 years old, with 2 sons, Ethan and Mason. No husband in the picture, no ex who pays child support, just Ashley in a small house our grandmother left her when she passed away. Growing up, I was always the invisible daughter, the extra, the one you forget in the background of family photos. My parents loved Ashley more, and they never tried to hide it. When I was 16 and Ashley was 13, I saved up from my part-time job for a dress. Not just any dress, a soft blue one that made me feel like maybe I could be the main character in my own life for one night. I kept it in the back of my closet, wrapped in plastic so it wouldn't get dusty before the school dance. Mom saw it the week before the dance. She held it up, turning it in the light. "Ashley needs a dress for her dance more than you need this," she said. "You're older. You can wear something you already have." Before I could react, she called Ashley into the room. "Oh my gosh, it's perfect," Ashley squealed, hugging the dress to her chest like it had always been hers. When I protested, Dad didn't even look up from the TV. Stop being selfish, Cambria. Family shares. Shares, that word would haunt me for years. When I graduated high school and wanted to go to college, my parents told me I'd have to pay for it myself. "It'll build character," Dad said. "You'll appreciate it more." So I worked 2 jobs and went to school full-time. I took the bus in the rain and snow, falling asleep on late rides home with textbooks open on my lap. For Ashley's 18th birthday, they surprised her with a used car, a giant bow on the hood. "Our baby girl can't be taking the bus," Mom said, kissing her cheek while I stood in the doorway, holding my backpack. After college, I finally got a job at a design firm and started to build my career. Slowly, carefully. Meanwhile, Ashley racked up credit card debt like it was a sport. The first time it was $2,200. "Family helps family," Mom said on the phone. "Your sister is struggling. You have a good job now. You can help." I paid it. Then it was 1-800. I paid that too. When Ashley had Ethan and Mason, the calls changed, but the message didn't. "The boys need new shoes, Cambria. Formula is expensive. Daycare is a lot. You know how hard it is for a single mother." So I started sending $600 every month. $600 every single month for 3 years. While I ate ramen and turned the heat down in winter to save on utilities, Ashley posted beach trips and weekend getaways on Instagram. The boys at theme parks. Ashley with a cocktail by a pool. Caption: "Work hard, play harder." I knew exactly whose work was paying for that play. But things were finally looking up for me. I had just bought my first house. It wasn't huge, but it was mine. And I'd worked for it. I planned everything: the color palette, the layout, the furniture. I ordered almost $15,000 worth of carefully chosen pieces: a gorgeous gray sofa for the living room, a glass coffee table with matching side tables, a sleek gray wardrobe, and a beautiful bed for my bedroom. I did some of the renovation myself. I painted the living room walls a soft cream that made the sunlight feel warm and easy. I did my bedroom in a calm blue-gray that looked like morning fog. With each brushstroke, it felt like I was reclaiming a tiny bit of space in the world. 2 weeks before my planned housewarming party, I posted in the family chat, "Housewarming on the 15th. Would love to have you all over." Mom messaged back almost immediately. "Can we come see it before the party? I want to see what you've done with the place." I actually stared at the message for a moment, wondering if I'd misread it. Mom never showed much interest in my life unless it involved asking for money. "Sure," I typed back. "Come by tomorrow." Mom came over with Ashley the next afternoon. They walked through the house, my house, the one I'd paid for, and designed and painted. Mom ran her fingers along the freshly painted walls. She hummed, clicking her tongue. "This is nice, very sophisticated." It was the closest thing to a compliment I'd heard from her in years. Ashley moved through the rooms with a strange expression on her face. Her eyes took in the empty space where the furniture would go, the fresh paint, the clean floors. She didn't say much. There was something tight around her mouth, like a smile held too long. We were standing in the living room when my phone rang. It was the furniture company. "Miss Hayes, we're calling to confirm delivery tomorrow between 10 and 2. My heart dropped. Tomorrow I had a huge meeting with a potential client. A big one. The kind of project that could change my business. Rescheduling wasn't an option. "Oh no," I said. "I have a really important meeting tomorrow. Is there any way to change the delivery day?" "I'm sorry, ma'am," the woman replied. "This is the scheduled date. If you're not available, we'd have to reschedule for 3 weeks from now." 3 weeks would be after my housewarming party. I needed the furniture before then. Mom had been listening. She stepped closer. "I can take the delivery for you," she said. "Give me a spare key. I'll be here to receive everything." For a moment, something warm flickered in my chest. Maybe Mom was finally proud of me. Maybe she wanted to help because she cared, not because she needed something. "Are you sure?" I asked. She rolled her eyes slightly. "Of course. Just give me the key." I handed it over, just like that. The next day, I came home from my meeting glowing. The client had loved my designs. We were moving forward on a big project. My future felt wide and bright. When I walked into my house and saw the furniture in place, it took my breath away. The gray sofa looked perfect against the cream walls. The glass coffee table gleamed. Upstairs, my bed and wardrobe turned the bedroom into something out of my own blog. I was so excited about the housewarming party, about my business, about everything finally aligning, that I completely forgot to get the spare key back from Mom. There was always something more urgent: clients, content, emails. The days flew by. Friday evening, I came home from work exhausted. Back-to-back meetings, endless emails, new inquiries. I opened my front door, already picturing myself collapsing onto my beautiful gray sofa with takeout. I took one step inside and stopped. The living room looked wrong. My gray sofa was gone. In its place sat an awful sagging couch with stuffing bulging through a rip in one cushion. The glass coffee table was gone too, replaced with a scratched-up wooden table that looked like it had survived a war. My heart hammered as I sprinted upstairs. My beautiful bed, gone. My wardrobe, gone. In their place, a stained mattress on the floor and a small metal cot. I recognized them, Ashley's furniture. I'd seen it in her house, old, worn, barely holding together. My phone buzzed, a message from Ashley. It was photos. Ethan and Mason bouncing on my gray sofa in Ashley's living room. Caption: "Best gift from Sis in forever. The boys are so happy." I stared at the message until the screen blurred. Then it hit me in one sharp, clean slice. They had stolen my furniture. While I was at work, they'd used the spare key. They'd walked into my house like it was theirs, taken $15,000 worth of furniture, and dumped their junk in its place. I sat down on the bare floor of my living room because I couldn't bring myself to touch that filthy couch. My mind raced through every time I'd paid, helped, sacrificed. Every time I'd told myself it was just this once. I opened Ashley's Instagram. There she was, her on my bed, stretched out like a queen, her lounging on my sofa. The caption said she'd bought all this new furniture for her boys. She was taking credit for my work, my money, my dream. My hands shook with rage. I sat there for 30 minutes, forcing myself to breathe, to think. Once, twice, 10 times over. Then I grabbed my car keys and drove to Ashley's house. She opened the door looking calm, too calm, like she'd been waiting for the show to start. "What are you doing here?" she asked. I pushed past her. My furniture was crammed into her tiny living room. The gray sofa shoved against one wall, my coffee table wedged in front of it like it belonged there. Through the bedroom door, I saw my bed and wardrobe. Mom and Dad sat on my sofa drinking tea like it was the most natural thing in the world. "My sofa," I said, my voice shaking. "Aura, calm down," Mom said, using the nickname she'd always shortened my name to, one I suddenly hated. She didn't even look guilty. "You live alone in that big house. You don't need all this fancy stuff. Ashley has 2 children. They need it more than you do." "I paid $15,000 for that furniture," I said. "You stole it from my house." Ashley actually laughed. She ran her hand along the back of the sofa. "You're a decorator, Cambria. You can turn that old stuff into, I don't know, vintage art pieces or something. Make it work. That's what you do, right?" "Give me back my furniture," I said. "Now." That's when Ethan and Mason came running out of the bedroom. They threw themselves at me, tears streaming. "Aunt Cambria, please don't take our sofa," Ethan wailed. "We love it so much. Please, please don't." Mason sobbed into my leg. I looked at Ashley. She watched them with a satisfied little smirk. She'd told them what to say. She'd coached them to cry. She was using her own children as props. "Look what you've done," Dad said, standing up from my sofa. "You've upset the boys. You're behaving outrageously. They're crying because of you." "They're crying because of you," I snapped. "Because Ashley told them to." "Don't you dare accuse me of that," Ashley snapped back. "My boys are genuinely upset. You're trying to take away their furniture." Mom started crying. Real tears, this time. "Cambria, how can you be so selfish? These are your nephews, your family, and you want to take their things away." I pulled out my phone. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. "What are you doing?" Ashley demanded, the edge in her voice sharpening. "Calling the police," I said. "You wouldn't dare," Mom hissed. "Watch me." I dialed 911. Mom started screaming. Ashley told me I'd regret this for the rest of my life. The boys cried louder, peeking at me through their fingers to see if it was working. 15 minutes later, 2 officers walked up the path, a man and a woman, calm, unreadable. There was a knock on the door. Everything went very, very quiet. The female officer stepped into the doorway first, her expression unreadable but alert. The male officer followed, one hand resting near his belt, not threatening, just ready. The room fell into a stunned silence. Even Ethan and Mason sniffled into stillness, their tears suddenly drying when they realized the crying show had a new audience. "What seems to be the problem?" the male officer asked. I took a breath. My hands were shaking, but my voice came out steady. "They stole my furniture." Mom gasped like I had just confessed to murder. "This is a family misunderstanding," she insisted, wiping at the corners of her eyes. "My daughter," she pointed at Ashley, "needed the furniture more. Cambria lives alone. She doesn't need all those expensive things." Ashley crossed her arms. "It's just a mix-up. Cambria's overreacting." I didn't argue. I simply held up my phone. I have receipts, invoices, and the delivery confirmation. Everything was bought by me, delivered to my home. My mother had a spare key to receive the delivery, and, without permission, she and my sister took the furniture and brought it here. I pulled up the evidence. The $15,000 invoice, the delivery confirmation, my credit card charged, my blog posts showing the same pieces I'd designed and purchased. The female officer turned to my family. "Did Miss Hayes give you permission to take the furniture?" Silence. Mom's eyes darted to Ashley. Ashley stared at the floor. "That's theft," the officer said simply. "Miss Hayes, you have 2 options. You can press charges or have the furniture returned immediately." "I want it returned," I said. The male officer shifted his weight. "Then you," he pointed at Ashley, "need to call a moving company. We'll supervise the process to make sure everything goes back to Miss Hayes' property." "This is insane," Mom screamed. "Cambria, you're not my daughter anymore. Do you hear me? You're dead to me." Ashley grabbed her phone. Her fingers trembled. Even she looked startled by Mom's words, but not enough to stop her. Dad sank onto my gray sofa, and buried his face in his hands. The officers positioned themselves by the doorway, making sure nobody tried anything. Ashley called a moving company. Her voice cracked as she forced out the details. Within an hour, movers were hauling my furniture through the doorway, piece by piece. My sofa, scratched and slightly stained now. My coffee table with a long gouge along the side. My bed frame with scuff marks. My wardrobe with an ugly dent in one corner. Mom paced behind them, shouting the whole time, "You're destroying this family. You're tearing us apart. After everything we did for you. Everything they did for me." The words almost made me laugh. Ashley leaned in the doorway, arms tightly crossed, hatred washing off her in waves. Every time a mover touched the sofa, she flinched like she was losing something she'd earned. Dad didn't say a word. When the movers finished loading everything, the officers escorted the truck back to my house. They supervised as the movers placed each item inside. When the last piece was set down, the female officer turned to me. "If anything goes missing or you notice further damage, file a supplemental report," she said gently. "Thank you," I whispered. They left. The movers left. And suddenly, it was just me and my damaged furniture. I walked through the living room, examining everything carefully. Chocolate stains smeared into the fabric of the gray sofa. Scratches so deep in the coffee table they looked like claw marks. A dent on the wardrobe I had saved months for. My beautiful bedroom set looked like it had been dragged across a gravel lot. My chest tightened painfully. 2 days. Just 2 days until the Luxe Living photo shoot. I grabbed my phone and called an emergency cleaning service. They came out that night. 3 people working for hours. They scrubbed, treated, buffed and polished. By the end, the furniture looked good, but not perfect. If you looked closely, too closely, you could still see faint spots on the sofa, a tiny scratch near the corner of the table, a slight dent along the wardrobe's edge. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I woke up to several notifications on my phone. Ashley had posted a photo. My stomach dropped as soon as I saw the thumbnail. It was my living room, but with her junk furniture in it, her sagging couch, her scratched table, and in the background, clear as day, were the expensive Luxe Living blinds I had installed for the photo shoot. Caption: Real decorator taste. This is what real influencers choose. Vintage is always better than fake new. Fake. She called my style fake. She mocked the work that kept my business alive. I immediately called Luxe Living's representative, Jennifer. She answered on the second ring. Hey, Cambria, we're excited for tomorrow's shoot. Jennifer, I blurted out, I need to explain something before you see any social media posts about my house. I told her everything. The theft, the furniture switch, the post Ashley made. Silence. Long silence. My throat tightened. If Luxe Living pulled out, my blog, my brand, everything could collapse. Finally, Jennifer spoke. Her voice was calm, steady, almost amused. Cambria, we've worked with you for 6 months. We know your style, your professionalism. Some bitter family member posting garbage online doesn't change that. The shoot is still on. My knees almost buckled with relief. The photo shoot happened 2 days later. It was perfect. The light was soft. The blinds glowed. My cream walls caught the morning sun exactly the way I had envisioned. The photographer kept saying, God, this place is a dream. When the pictures went live, my blog exploded. Hundreds of comments, 3,000 new followers in a week, emails from brands wanting collabs. For the first time in a long time, I felt something warm settle under my ribs, something like pride. A few days later, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and a notepad. Time to do math. I went through my bank statements for the last 3 years. Monthly support for Ashley's kids, $600 or salaries 36 months, equals $21,600. Credit card debts I had paid, $1,200 plus $1,800 plus years of just this once payments. Total, $24,000. Parents' car insurance for the last 5 years, $12,000. Grand total, $57,600. Almost $60,000. Gone. Handed over because I was told that family shares. I felt cold, numb. Then I opened a new document and typed up an invoice, a real one, professional, itemized, clean. At the bottom I wrote, the ATM is now closed permanently. Then I emailed it to Mom, Dad, and Ashley. I blocked their numbers, all of them. 2 days later, Aunt Linda called from a number I recognized. Honey, she said softly, I heard what happened, and I want you to know, I think you did the right thing. She also told me something else. Mom and Ashley were fighting, screaming every day. Mom blamed Ashley. Ashley blamed Mom. They couldn't even agree on who came up with the idea to steal my furniture. I didn't feel bad, not even a little. Later that week, I held my housewarming party. Aunt Linda came. The cousins who'd always been kind to me came. Friends and business partners came. Laughter filled the rooms I'd designed myself. People complimented every corner, every detail. Mom, Dad, and Ashley weren't there. I didn't invite them. And for the first time in my life, a family gathering didn't feel heavy. For the first time in my life, the house felt like it belonged to me. For almost 3 months, my phone became a battlefield. Blocked numbers left voicemails full of guilt trips. Unknown callers begged me to forgive your mother. She didn't mean it. Cousins I barely spoke to urged me to remember that family is forever. Someone even texted, kids need stability. You're hurting Ethan and Mason. I deleted everything. I stopped answering numbers I didn't recognize. I refused to be dragged back into the role of the family's emotional punching bag. I kept designing, kept working, kept breathing in the peace my home finally gave me. And then one Saturday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Jake was at work. Aunt Linda never came by without texting first. When I looked through the peephole, my heart sank. Dad. Standing alone, shoulders slightly hunched, a small overnight bag at his feet. I opened the door only halfway. What do you want? He looked older, much older. The man who used to bark at me to stop making a fuss now stood with eyes that seemed tired and scared. Cambria, he said quietly, can we talk? I didn't move for a long second. Then I stepped aside. 5 minutes, I said. He walked in slowly, like the air inside my house weighed more than he expected. We sat on my gray sofa. The faint chocolate stain, almost invisible now, was a quiet reminder of what had brought me here. Dad clasped his hands between his knees. They trembled. "I'm sorry," he said. No defensiveness, no excuses, just words that fell heavily in the space between us. "For everything," he added, "for always taking Ashley's side, for ignoring you, for letting your mother and sister walk all over you. I should have protected you." I stared at him, waiting, wanting more. He swallowed thickly. "When you were 16 and your mother gave your dress to Ashley, I should have said something. When you were paying for college on your own, when you were working yourself sick and we asked you for money, when Ashley got that car for her birthday, when she had the boys and we expected you to provide, and then the furniture." His voice cracked. He covered his face. "I didn't see it then. I see it now, and I'm ashamed." The apology I'd wanted my whole life should have felt good. It didn't. Not yet. "Why now?" I asked. "Why after 33 years? Dad let out a long, shuddering breath. "Because your mother won't stop. She says you betrayed the family. She calls you selfish, but I saw the invoice you sent." Of course he did. Ashley probably shoved her phone in his face, screaming. "I saw the number," he said softly. "Almost $60,000. Your sister never told us how much she'd asked for over the years. If I'd known—" He shook his head. "That's not help. That's exploitation." I leaned back, arms crossed. "And?" He looked down at his hands. "I moved into the spare bedroom last month. I told your mother I'm not supporting her behavior anymore. We barely speak." My eyebrows lifted. Mom wouldn't take that well. Mom didn't take anything well if it wasn't about her. "And Ashley?" I asked. Dad sighed. "She's working 2 jobs now, retail and restaurant, barely managing. With your $600 a month gone, she's facing reality for the first time." Good, but I didn't say it. "Her boys?" I asked instead. "They're okay. Tired sometimes. Ashley is trying. I think she's scared." "Actions have consequences," I said flatly. He nodded. "I'm not here to defend them. I'm here for you." There was a long silence, a heavy one. Then he looked up, meeting my eyes. For once, really meeting them. "Cambria, I want to try again. To be a father to you. A real one, if you'll let me." My chest tightened, not with hope, not with anger. Something quieter, heavier. "You can visit," I said finally. "But only you, not Mom, not Ashley, not the boys unless Ashley consents separately, and if you ever take their side against me again, you're done. Permanently." Dad nodded quickly. "That's fair." And for the first time in our lives, I think he actually meant it. Dad started visiting every other week. Sometimes he came alone. Sometimes he brought Ethan and Mason. The boys were shy at first, confused, hesitant, unsure if they were allowed to like me. But soon they warmed up. They played with my backyard garden hose, ran circles around the patio, and asked me endless questions about colors and design. They were sweet kids, kids who had been used as props in adult melodramas, kids who deserved better than the manipulative environment they'd grown up in. Dad helped them build a bird feeder for my yard. We ate dinner together. Sometimes Jake cooked, sometimes I did, sometimes Dad brought takeout. Slowly, carefully, something small and fragile began to mend between us. Not perfectly, not instantly, but real. Meanwhile, my career began to lift like a kite, finally catching the right wind. A local TV presenter hired me to redesign her entire home. The job paid exceptionally well. The exposure was incredible. Her followers became my followers. Her network became my network. I used the money to remodel my own home. New kitchen cabinets, updated bathroom, a stunning home office where sunlight poured onto my design sketches. Then Lux Living invited me for another feature. Then 2 more. Then Better Homes and Gardens did a 6-page spread on my work. My blog grew past 50,000 followers. Brands reached out weekly for partnerships. Sometimes life rewards you the moment you stop letting people steal from you. And somewhere in the middle of my rebuilding, I met Jake. He was an architect I collaborated with on a shared project. Kind eyes, soft laugh, a way of talking about design that felt like art and science blended into warmth. He respected my boundaries. When I told him my history with my family, he didn't tell me to forgive. He didn't tell me to be the bigger person. He just said, "You deserve better. I'm glad you're giving it to yourself now." He started coming to dinner with Dad and the boys. He helped Mason build a Lego tower taller than he was. He taught Ethan how to draw lines straight without a ruler. Dad watched us with the soft expression I'd never seen before. Pride. Not for Ashley, not for her kids, not for the family image. For me. One evening, Dad lingered after Jake went to answer a work call. We were sitting on my deck, coffee mugs warm in our hands. Dad cleared his throat. Ashley asks about you sometimes. I didn't flinch. I don't care. I know, he said gently. I just thought you should know that she regrets things. She regrets getting caught, I said, not hurting me. He hesitated, then nodded. You're probably right. The sky turned lavender. A breeze rustled the potted rosemary by my feet. The house, my house, glowed through the windows. This is peaceful, Dad murmured. It was, because for the first time in my life, peace was something I'd chosen for myself. And little by little, something changed in me. I stopped seeing myself as the invisible daughter. I stopped measuring my worth through what I gave others. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never come from Mom or Ashley. I began living a life built on boundaries, not burdens, on respect, not resentment, on choice, not obligation. And for the first time, I wondered if this quiet, steady rebuilding was what healing was supposed to feel like. A year after the furniture incident, I barely recognized my own life, and that was a good thing. The woman I was before that day had been stretched thin, bent low, poured out for people who treated her like a bottomless resource. The woman I had become stood straighter. Softer in some ways, sharper in others, whole. My house was finally complete, not just furnished, but transformed. The remodel was finished. New kitchen cabinets with matte black hardware, an updated bathroom with stone tiles that felt cool under bare feet, and a gorgeous home office with shelving that displayed swatches, mood boards, and plants I rarely forgot to water now. I added a sunroom out back, a space full of morning light and quiet inspiration. That room became my sanctuary. I drank coffee there while sketching new ideas for clients, watching my garden change with the seasons. My business had grown so much, I sometimes had trouble believing it was real. The contract with the TV presenter had blown open every door I thought was bolted shut. After that project, I got inquiries from people across the state, homeowners with million-dollar remodels, boutique hotels wanting refreshing, modern vibes, even a small chain of cafes looking for a whole aesthetic rebrand. My rates had tripled. I was booked for 6 months straight. I'd hired 3 employees. We were doing commercial work now, lobbies, waiting rooms, chic offices. Lux Living asked me to do 3 more magazine features with them. Each spread brought me more clients and more blog followers. My following passed 100,000. Brands started emailing me weekly with partnership offers, lighting companies, rug designers, eco-friendly paint brands. Somewhere in the middle of the whirlwind, I was offered a book deal, accessible interior design, tips and case studies for everyday people trying to make a beautiful home on a real budget. The publisher believed in my voice. The advance was generous. I signed the contract with shaking hands. And in the middle of all of it, there was Jake. 8 months after we started dating, he had a key to my house. He didn't move in fully, not yet. Said he wanted us to take our time, to let things grow the way they needed to. He kept his apartment, but half his books lived on the shelves in my office, and his sweaters started showing up in my laundry basket. He cooked for me when I worked late. He kissed my forehead when I was too tired to think. And when I told him I was scared to trust anyone fully again, he didn't get offended. He just said, "I'll earn it, in time." Dad kept visiting every week. Sometimes he came alone. Sometimes he brought Ethan and Mason. I'd long stopped associating them with the crying performance from that awful day. They were just kids now, messy, funny, endlessly curious. They drew pictures at my dining table, played tag in my backyard, asked Jake questions about architecture until he eventually bought them sketchbooks of their own. Ashley never came. I never invited her. And I made peace with that. Dad never pushed. He never said, "She's your sister. You should forgive her." Instead, he brought leftover meals he'd cooked, asked about my projects, listened to me talk about clients and deadlines and design decisions like it all mattered deeply to him. For the first time, he became a father in the way I had needed decades earlier. One evening on my deck, after we'd eaten dinner and the boys were drawing aliens with crayons, Dad said, "Ashley saw pictures from your wedding." I hadn't told him yet, but he knew from the photos relatives had tagged me in. Jake had proposed quietly one Sunday morning in my sunroom. No big production, no grand gesture, just him, barefoot, holding coffee, saying, "I love you. I want all the mornings with you." I said yes before he finished the sentence. 6 months later, we had a small wedding in my backyard. White flowers, a short aisle, sunlight filtering through the trees. Aunt Linda stood in the front row, clutching tissues. Dad walked me down the aisle, tears in his eyes, whispering, "I'm proud of you, so proud." Ethan and Mason were the ring bearers, carrying the rings like the fate of the world depended on them. We invited the family who had shown up for me, the ones who loved without demanding, guilt-tripping, or taking. Mom and Ashley weren't even considered. Afterward, Jake and I honeymooned in Italy. Florence, Venice, the Amalfi Coast. We spent evenings eating pasta in candlelit courtyards, mornings drinking cappuccinos in tiny cafes with tiled floors, days wandering through museums, where he talked about architecture like poetry. When we came home, everything felt new. Dad sipped his coffee on my deck that evening. "Your sister cried," he said quietly. "She told me she should have been there, that she was your family." I didn't bother responding, and Dad sighed softly. "I told her," he said, "that she made her choices, and now she has to live with them." I looked at him then, really looked. This wasn't the man who once told me to stop being selfish at 16. This was a man who had seen the consequences of enabling a daughter who refused to grow, a man trying, in his quiet, clumsy way, to make amends. After Jake and I settled into married life, we bought a new home together, a place with vaulted ceilings, big windows, an open floor plan, and enough space for both our offices. My design studio became the heart of the house, shelves stacked with samples, soft chairs for consultations, huge windows that flooded the room with morning light. My business expanded even further. My book sold well. I was asked to speak at design conferences. People waited 2 months just to get on my consultation calendar. Sometimes, driving through town, I passed Ashley's house. The paint was peeling. The yard was overgrown. Her old car sat in the driveway with a cracked windshield and one mismatched tire. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt nothing. She was finally living with the consequences she had always avoided, because I had always shielded her from them. Now she was working 2 jobs, raising her boys on her own, handling her debts without me, learning, the hard way, what I had lived through for years. Once that would have made me ache. Now it didn't touch me at all. I had everything I'd built myself, a thriving business, a beautiful home, a partner who respected me, a father who finally saw me, a circle of people who didn't take from me, who gave back. Peace I created with my own hands. Ashley had exactly what she had earned, and I was finally truly fine with that. The real happy ending wasn't revenge, it wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't reconciliation. It was the quiet certainty that my life was mine now, fully mine, and nobody, ever again, would treat me like an ATM.